Hey, so it looks like a good amount of people have joined us so far. So let's go ahead and kick things off, guys. My name is Jennifer Hemmett, and I work at Trustpilot. I'm so excited to bring you onto today's webinar. We are partnered with SmartMail today, and our webinar is titled Email Marketing and Social Proof Equals the Perfect Formula to Convert More Browsers into Buyers. We're going to cover some great information for you. Our panelists today are Daniel Cohn, the founder of SmartMail, and our very own Lauren Lohman, who's the director of Demand Gen here at Trustpilot. We're going to try to keep this pretty short, around 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in, and if time allows, we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. If we don't answer your question, don't worry, we'll be sure to follow up with you via email. We want to make sure that all questions are answered. So thanks so much, and I'll hand it off to Lauren, and she'll tell you a little bit about Trustpilot.
So I think we're actually going to start with Daniel, but real quick, I'll just go through this agenda. We're going to do a quick intro to SmartMail, where Daniel will speak to that, then an intro to Trustpilot. Then we'll kick it off by talking about email. Then we'll go into specific types of behavioral emails and how they can kind of come to the rescue. Then we'll look at 3 of the highest converting emails, social proof in emails, which are, of course, reviews, and some key examples of these winning behavioral emails with reviews. So yeah, we'll pass it off to Daniel to talk a little bit about SmartMail.
Cool. Hey, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So yeah, we've prepared hopefully what's going to be some really interesting, actionable strategies for you guys around email marketing and specifically behavioral. Just a little bit about us before we get into it as a company and what we do. SmartMail, so we're a done-for-you solution. It's working specifically with e-commerce companies to help them send highly personalized automated emails to customers. So we're going to talk quite a bit more about what, when we talk about highly personalized emails and how to automate emails. And like Lauren was saying, we're going to get more into that in a little bit. So hopefully by the end of the presentation, all these concepts might come together a little bit more, and the ideas will start flowing a little bit more. But that kind of in a nutshell is what we do as a company. And in terms of some of our milestones and some of the other companies we work with, since we've started, we've helped generate over $27 million in revenue for the companies that we work with through these email campaigns that we're going to start looking at in a little bit. We've done and sent over 531 million emails and A/B tested them. We've collected over 25 million email addresses and added those emails to our client list. And what we've seen from the email campaigns that we send, we usually see an average open rate of about 46%. And so I guess the main reason why I'm saying this is not so much to sort of brag and show you how great we are, but it's more really just to identify that we actually have quite a bit of experience in what I'm going to show you and some of the strategies that we're going to look at in the campaigns when we break them down. And so all these ideas that we're talking about are really based on real-life experience as opposed to like theoretical ideas. And so I just thought it would be interesting to sort of paint that picture as well. And below there is just some of the companies that we've worked with and we work with these campaigns that we're going to be talking about today on the call. So that's us, I guess, in a nutshell, SmartMail. And I think back over to you, Lauren.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So yeah, a quick intro to Trustpilot. I know a lot of you might know who we are, but for those that don't, we are an online community and business solution that connects consumers and businesses via reviews. And we're actually the largest review community for online businesses and e-commerce businesses. We have over 22 million online reviews from over 120 different countries. And so why we exist is for 2 reasons, really. The first is for consumers, and we want to help them make better buying decisions by being able to read and engage with these reviews on Trustpilot, on our review community. And the second is for businesses like you. So we offer a solution that helps you automate your review collection process. You can also moderate and engage with these reviews and leverage them in a lot of different channels, specifically marketing, to ultimately grow your business. And we kind of segment our business into these 3 different pillars. The first is brand builder. So again, collecting these reviews to establish a trusted brand. The second is accelerating your marketing efforts and growing as much ROI as possible from it. And the last but not least is generating insights from these reviews so that you can improve your overall customer experience. Yeah, so I'll pass it off to Daniel to start talking a little bit more about reviews, or talking a little bit more about email, sorry.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about email. Okay, so so let me just get this. I'm just trying to move to the next slide. Hello, Lauren? Hello.
There it is.
Here we go. Okay, cool.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so jumping straight into it, I guess where I wanted to start was just a little bit on a higher level, just painting the picture around email in general, and then sort of digging deeper down into all the different areas of email campaigns and strategies. So just really sort of on a high level, email, I guess, is always in the digital marketing sort of ecosystem, has always usually been the highest converting channel when compared to paid search or social media or affiliate marketing or increasing your SEO traffic. This was a report that was done by Marketing Land in 2015. But interestingly, every year there's a report that comes out that usually benchmarks very similar results, where email can usually convert 2 to 3 times greater than most other channels across the board. So when we look at email, sorry, I'm just having a bit of trouble trying to move these slides. Right, so when we look at email, I guess what we like to do is sort of break the whole email piece out into 2 different categories. The first is really what we call broadcast email, and that's what most people are familiar with, which is otherwise known as like newsletters, where you're sending one email to your entire list. Some people call it like spray and pray mail, one-to-many. There's no real personalization or logic or smarts that are involved in sending these emails, but it's the most common form of sending email and the most common form of email campaigns. Now, like having said all that, there's nothing wrong with sending these campaigns, and they're really important to be sending. And most companies generate most of their revenue through email from these campaigns. But on the other side of email, there's what we call behavioral email, and starting to personalize the email experience and send emails to shoppers based on what they do or don't do on your website. So the actual engagement with customers is very different and it's much more personalized. Because the content in each email is sent in relation to where they got to in their shopping journey, what they were browsing on the website, and that leads to highly personalized content and very high engagement rates, which I'm going to show you some more examples of and dig a little bit further into some numbers around how these types of campaigns convert. But sort of on broad strokes, like these are the 2 main areas of the email channel, and the area that we're going to sort of really look at today is behavioral email, and really how to personalize every email that you send based on what their browsing behavior actually was. So jumping over to the next slide. So the next thing I want to do to sort of keep the storyline going is to really now start looking at the behavioral life cycle, because I guess if you look at the customer journey, what we like to do is break the customer journey down into these 4 stages, where we have someone entering the website. So there's maybe just click to the next slide as well. So there's the welcome kind of process, and under each of these stages, there's all the connecting email campaigns that are relevant to that stage of the life cycle. So we have the welcome stage, we have a browsing stage. So inside the browsing stage, this is where shopping cart abandonment emails come in. There's browse retargeting, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then I guess if you look at this image and sort of draw a dotted line between browsing and post-purchase, that's I guess where an order is made. And then so on the other side of an order is post-purchase campaigns, where you have replenishment campaigns or cross-selling campaigns based on what people have purchased. Rating and review campaigns, which is where Trustpilot comes in. And then you have, at the very end of the actual journey, you have retention-based campaigns. And a lot of those campaigns are really related to trying to increase the lifetime value of a customer and trying to keep a customer for longer and to increase their total spend with your company over a longer period of time. And so what we've found is, so if you just go back a step, what we've found is that most companies, when we look at the entire journey and the customer journey and in the life cycle, most companies and brands usually focus on these last two ends of the actual life cycle. Campaigns are created after an order's been made. And that's where a lot of the focus is today on sending behaviorally based emails. And one of the reasons for that is because it's really a lot easier to be able to capture order and purchase information straight out of a shopping cart and pass it into a third-party tool, and then be able to use that information to send these types of email campaigns. But what we've actually found is, if you go to the next slide, what we've actually found over the last couple of years is a lot of the value, and actually the majority of the value, when you sort of break down the life cycle, what we've found is that the biggest sort of upside in revenue that you can generate from all these campaigns as a whole strategy usually comes from this side of the life cycle and the shopping journey. And this side is really the side where people are browsing, people are in decision mode, they haven't actually pulled the trigger on actually making a purchase. They could be new visitors, they could be returning visitors that haven't made an order. But effectively, what this side of the journey is really all about is really trying to identify people who have shown some level of purchase intent on your website, but they actually left before completing an order. And so let me just click here to the next slide. So some of these segments and some of these campaign ideas that are related to browse campaigns and welcome campaigns are, I guess the most obvious one is cart abandoners. A lot of companies today have shopping cart abandonment campaigns where the behavioral element of that is somebody's added an item to their cart, but they didn't complete their order. So we send them an email saying, hey, we noticed you left these items in your cart, come back and, take another look, and hopefully you're going to buy something. But the next question to ask is, well, that's great, but what about all the people who actually didn't even add any items to their cart? What about all the people who browsed the product page and didn't add those items to their cart, and then they left the website? Or category browsers who browsed the category page and were viewing all these category and all these category ranges, but never actually viewed a product. And if we go further up the funnel, we've got homepage browsers as well. So there's a whole lot of people who arrived on your homepage and they just exited before they even got any further. And the same with what we call site search users, people who use the search functionality but didn't actually get to a product page. And so when we start looking at behavioral campaigns in this context, these are all the different types of segments of people that we can start targeting and sending relevant content based on what they were browsing, whether it's a product page, a category, or on the home page. And so we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail and take you through some of these campaigns. But these types of campaigns are really the ones that, when we look at that whole life cycle, that really do help generate a big line share of the revenue when it comes to behavioral email. And the other thing that these campaigns really do well is that they really help leverage all the other traffic strategies that you are probably engaged in right now, whether it's you're buying AdWords traffic or you're doing stuff on social media and you're actually paying money to get people to your website. But the reality is that there's so many more people abandoning your site before they even add items to their cart or before they make a purchase. So the idea of these campaigns is to really retarget them and bring them back to where they left off in their purchasing journey. So that hopefully paints like a bit more of a context around behavioral email and this specific area of the actual behavioral life cycle. And so before I go into some of these campaigns and show you what some of the templates look like and how they actually come together, we've got some statistics here. If we just jump to the next slide. So we can see here, this was a Forrester research report also done in 2015. So we've got, along the bottom, we've got open rate and conversion rate. And broadcast email, you can see, which, like we said before, is basically regular newsletters. Usually attract a benchmarked an average open rate of 15% and a conversion rate of 6%. And now in relation to behavioral email, you can see there's a massive difference. Behavioral email has much higher engagement rates on all major metrics. So the open rates on average are about 38%, and the conversion rates like over 3 times higher, benchmarked at 19%. So clearly like a very big difference when you actually start to personalize these types of campaigns and really start reaching your audience at the right place. Sorry, not at the right place, at the right time with the right content. So moving along from there, just before I show you some of these templates and what some of these campaigns actually look like, a lot of people at this point could be saying to themselves, look, you know, this all sounds really good and you know, I get what you're talking about, but I'm just not sure that these types of ideas or strategies would actually work for my particular product that I'm selling or my particular industry in the retail or e-commerce space. So I always like to sort of say this as well, is that it really doesn't matter what products you're selling. It really doesn't matter how much your product costs and what pricing scales you work with. It doesn't matter which country you're selling in, or if you're actually in the B2B or B2C space. Like our experience has been the campaigns that I'm about to show you and that we've just been talking about really work across the board. And the theory is can be applied pretty much across the board, like I was just saying. Sometimes the application is slightly different. So there might be a couple of differences between a homewares type of product versus selling a pair of, you know, sports shoes. But the actual theory of what we're talking about is the same because it's all related to somebody's purchasing journey. So I just thought it was also interesting and important to sort of point that out. So yeah, so let's keep going. What I'd like to do now is really sort of hone in a little bit further now. Now we've got, you know, some context around this, and just look at what we've identified as the 3 highest converting, I guess we'd put the word behavioral in there, behavioral emails. So let's take a look at these now. And the first campaign is the product browse email. Now the product browse email, on the right side, we've got an example of what one of those emails can look like, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you know, really simply, a product browse email, like we were saying before, is when someone views a product page, but they didn't add any item or they didn't add it to their basket, and then they leave the website. So the idea of this type of campaign is that it's a gentle reminder. You know, we're not looking to discount in all of these emails. We're not looking to, you know, offer crazy incentives. So the purpose of these campaigns is really just to offer a gentle reminder, and I guess the most important part is to populate the product details for into the templates for higher engagement and higher click-through rates. So I think on the next, so here if we just take a look at it, at this particular template as an example, they're not fancy. There's no high-end glossy, you know, imagery. It's pretty straightforward. There's some social confidence building content in there as well, which Lauren I think is going to speak to in a little bit from Trustpilot. And then we also have product recommendations. So on each level that these campaigns operate in this particular campaign, these products are related products specifically to this particular product that is being showcased up the top. And we'll see in some of the other campaigns we use different algorithms as well to use in some of these campaigns to complement the actual campaign that it is. So that's sort of like the template, and this is actually one of the higher converting templates. So anyone who says, email templates have to be really fancy and there has to be high-end imagery, it's really not necessarily true. It really just has to be contextually relevant and personalized to get good engagement rates. So on this particular campaign, we usually see on average across a lot of the companies that we work with, so these are all averages. Obviously, it always varies from one company to the next, but on average, the average open rate for these campaigns is 52%. So it's very, very high open rates. Click-through rates usually around 28%, and the revenue per email sent is usually around $3.63. So the revenue per email sent is the revenue you could expect to generate on average from every one of these email campaigns, every one of these emails you actually send out to the shopper. And so, again, very high engagement rate because of that contextual relevance and because of the behavioral capabilities that are actually built into this actual email. So that's basically the product browse campaign. The next type of campaign that we see really strong success with is, let me just go to the next slide, is what we call the category browse campaign. So that this campaign sort of fits a little bit higher up the funnel. So the category browse campaign is when someone views the category page but didn't actually view any product pages. So their purchase intent is slightly less than product browsers, and then obviously less than cart abandoners. But there's some intent. They showed some interest in your website and some interest in your products, just not enough yet. So again, the idea is to send a gentle reminder and to populate the email with category-specific imagery and category-specific recommendations. So you can see in this particular example, the imagery can sometimes be related to that category. The title of the actual email, where it says Shop Our Sports and Fitness Selection, that can be dynamically populated as well based on the category for each individual person. And then the recommendations down below are also then category specific. So everything is tightly focused around that specific category. And again, you can see with these types of campaigns and these templates, again, it's not, this company didn't spend a crazy amount of money on fancy design work. It's pretty straightforward, but it's the contextual relevance again that really helps drive the message home, and the confidence building as well around some of the review content as well inside the emails, which Lauren's going to talk about soon as well. So to give you an idea around the performance of these types of campaigns, if we just jump to the next slide. Where are we here? Sorry, it's weird because we tested all this before, but for some reason it's not allowing me to. Anyway, so with this campaign, what we can see is the open rate and click-through rate still really high, a little bit less than the product browse, because I think that in some way it's related to the intent. So there's less intent, so maybe there's less reaction, but there's still a very strong reaction because getting an open rate of 43% on an email is very, very high by any industry standard. So still very strong engagement. And again, the revenue per email sent usually on average ranges at around $1.82 per email sent. So again, it's just another campaign that really adds to the overall behavioral perspective of being able to engage with your customers and put content in front of them that's meaningful and relevant to what their experience was on the site before they left. So we've got one more example, which is the next campaign. So again, we're going to move a little bit. We're going to move all the way to the top of the funnel now. And we're going to look at homepage browsers. here we go. So now we've got, homepage browsers. So, I mean, everybody's probably familiar with, a ton of people hitting the homepage and leaving really quickly. And so one of the things it's definitely something that we notice across the board. I mean, it's a common instance. People just bouncing very quickly. So what we tried doing a while ago is, how can we engage these people and try to, re-message them and try to send them something that might be meaningful or interesting for them in relation to a very little purchase intent, very little interest in your website. And so what we started doing a while ago with some companies that we worked with is that anybody who viewed the homepage but didn't actually get any further, so that's really the automation rule that triggers this type of campaign, we would send them this particular email. And in this email, because there's very little personalization that we could add to it, what we decided to do was rather than, we couldn't really personalize a whole lot, but what we decided to do was to populate the email with just the top sellers across the site for the last 10 days. And so to really just showcase the best-selling items. And we thought, maybe that might interest people. And the idea is to sort of keep top of mind. So maybe a day after someone bounced off your website, you might want to send them an email just saying, hey, thanks for stopping by, which is, the title in this particular email. We noticed you were, on the site yesterday. Here are the sellers from the last 10 days. Now, this template only has 6 recommendations. Sometimes we could have 12 or 15. Because what we've also found is a lot of people, when they're on their phones, they could be, checking these emails on their way to work. They could be sitting on a bus. Hopefully, they're not checking them while they're driving. But a lot of people just like to scroll. And what we found sometimes is that just having more options and more product showcasing different product can actually open up the opportunity to increase the click-through rate. So sometimes we might have quite a lot more products depending on the actual product range and the company. But in this particular case, we have 6. And really, it's just a nice, soft way of staying top of mind while your brand is still fresh in their minds from the day before or from a few days before. And we have actually seen some success with these types of campaigns. And again, because if we look at the statistics, again, the actual engagement rates aren't as high again, but still, again, if you look at the open rate, 26%, click-through rate, 19%, it's still very high in relation to regular email. And the revenue percent is usually around 84 cents. But the other interesting thing to note is that with these particular campaigns, there's a lot of people exiting your homepage, so you could be sending a lot more of these types of emails, so that 84 cents can actually convert into a nice monthly uplift in sales as well. So, so that's basically the idea around the homepage browse campaign. And I'm just looking. So just to summarize the actual template and these 3 campaigns, this is just the images of the templates. Again, nothing over the top, nothing fancy. They're really templates that quite easily put together. But again, it's really about the logic and the behavioral relevance and the personalization that goes into it that really drives the success of these types of campaigns. So I think that's kind of, and then just finally, just to sort of square away a couple of other browse campaigns that we usually work with companies on sending where it makes sense, and we see success with is sometimes if you're a brand-focused product offering and brand is really important, we might create brand-specific campaigns. So if someone browsed the Nike section, we might send them an email about the Nike shoes. Another one we spoke about earlier was site search campaigns where people used site search functionality but didn't actually get any further. So the email would be in relation to what they were searching for, or a wish list campaign, same kind of idea. And then the new visitor campaign, which is specifically targeting new visitors as opposed to returning visitors, and trying to encourage new visitors to make their first purchase, because we all know the value of what converting a new visitor on their first sale is actually worth. It's a very valuable thing to be able to do. And then welcome campaigns as well, which fit into the that first part of that life cycle of that imagery that we were talking about earlier before. So so that, I guess, in a nutshell, is the browse strategy, the behavioral strategy of email marketing. Hopefully that kind of helped paint a good picture and provided some examples and sort of seeded some ideas in your head about how you could possibly look at addressing some of these ideas in your business. So just to sort of summarize, like if anyone's interested in looking at how to actually get some of these campaigns live, and speaking with Lauren before the call, and we were just explaining to her that the way we work as a company is that we're not really just a platform that is able to capture all the data and create all these emails and make them nice on mobile devices and do all these fancy things. But really the big part of what we do is that we actually help just get it all done for you as well. Our whole offering, like I was saying in the very beginning, is really a done-for-you service, because there's a lot of people know they want to be doing these types of campaigns, and they're looking at big companies like Amazon and Zappos and thinking, I want to be able to personalize my emails like that, but maybe they just need some help doing it. And if you'd like to find out more, feel free to get in touch with us. We're at smartmail.io, and we'd be happy to talk to you. So yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Daniel. So we'll spend a little bit of time here just at the end of the webinar talking about social proof in emails. And you saw those reviews and some of the different images and screenshots of the emails that Daniel was showing. So that's what we'll talk about a little bit more here, and how it can just optimize those emails even further. So before we jump into that, let's just spend a second looking at why reviews work, why they're important. And at the end of the day, it's because 72% of people trust consumer opinions posted online, which are essentially reviews, and it's only second to recommendations from people that they know. So it's very valuable and very trustworthy overall. And next, so the impact reviews have on the buyer journey, specifically in kind of getting them to actually purchase with you, is that 92% of consumers say that buying decisions are influenced by online reviews, so they're definitely looking for them. And 72% of consumers will take action after reading a positive review. So it's, again, important to have these reviews in your key conversion channels, whether it's your website, landing pages, or emails. And last but not least, consumers will actually spend more with you. So not only are they more likely to actually make a purchase, but they'll probably spend 31% more if they see excellent reviews of your business. So again, another key way to drive up ROI from your emails. And so this might look familiar to you. This is a typical kind of consumer purchase journey, just maybe vary depending on what you're selling. But reviews play an important part of each one of these steps in that buyer's journey. So from need recognition to product specification and evaluation of options, they're definitely looking for reviews as they consider who to buy from. And of course, post-purchase is really important as well. Are they going to recommend you to a friend, or will they purchase from you again? So how does this relate to email marketing specifically, and how can you use reviews to help with your email marketing? The first thing I'll touch on will be social proof. I think that's what you kind of associate email marketing reviews with first. So showing those reviews in your email marketing, they feel like personal recommendations maybe from a friend or someone that's used your service or bought your product before. And again, it can just drive up conversions or clicks overall. And then jumping back to the first one here, so UGC. Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, no, they really do make a huge difference. Like we've tested before, having reviews in emails and not having them, and they just really, really help build confidence, and they really are helpful. And they're not hard to put there either. Like
exactly.
And they really do make a big difference. Yeah.
For sure. And so that actually touches really nicely on the first one to the left, UGC, or this new, not new term, but kind of hot term right now, user-generated content. is, it's the idea of you're getting this free content, and it's really easy to include in all your different marketing channels, and you don't have to spend any time on it internally. You're getting this content for free simply by asking for reviews, and it's created on an ongoing basis if you're continuing to automate your review collection process. So again, it's great content, user-generated, so really easy to get. The second one here is natural language, and I think this is something that we might not think of necessarily, but incredibly important, is that in your emails and really in all of your marketing that you're using your customers' lingo, language, and speaking about your products and services in the way that they speak about your products and services. And we have one customer specifically who's done this, which is great. They're called Dashlane, and they actually completely revamped their value prop and branding based off of, again, the review content that they were getting and the way their customers were speaking about them. In an email, I think it's that much more important that your language makes sense to those that you're trying to target. So reviews are another great source of that. The fourth one here is effective targeting. So I'll talk on this a lot more, but basically you can use different targeted reviews based off those behavioral email campaigns. So I'll touch on that more in a minute. But another thing you can do too with effective targeting from reviews is use those reviews for your post-purchase emails when you're trying to get customers to purchase from you again. You can segment your audience based off of the reviews. If it was positive, negative, what they said they liked about you or what they said they didn't. And last but not least is credibility. So it is important that you're not just like using any old reviews. It is important that you're collecting reviews through a trusted third party like Trustpilot, and using that branding as well, so that when people are looking at the reviews, there's no question of, is this real or was it created by someone on the marketing team? So it's just important to kind of, again, improve your credibility with having these different trust signals with a third party.
Yeah, I just add one thing, that in a lot of when we talk about effective targeting, we use reviews as well to complement different areas of the purchasing journey. So in cart abandonment emails, we sometimes we use more like company-related reviews to sort of build the confidence about the company, because someone might be having issues with maybe the shipping, there might be issues with shipping, or whatever the policies are, and so we try to use reviews that are related to that part of their journey as well. And we've also found that really helps, using specific reviews that relate to what like overcoming objections or issues that people might be facing in that part of the purchasing journey as well. So I think it touches on that part as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was going to kind of zero in on here, because I think that is one of the key ways to make your emails more effective. So some helpful tips, we'll zero on that a little bit more, is review content is great for both new and returning customers. I actually think a lot of our customers kind of forget about those returning customers, and you can use specific reviews for them. And exactly like Daniel said, using targeted review content based off maybe demographic information, so that way they're looking at reviews from customers that feel similar to them, their past purchasing behavior, which I'll touch on a little bit more here, or the steps in their purchase funnel. So just like some of the examples Daniel said, if you're first introducing or pitching your company, you can use reviews that are talking about your company at a high level and using your customer's language. Or midway through the purchase funnel, maybe if they stopped at a product page, you can use product reviews to kind of, again, drive them to convert. Or if it was maybe at a cart abandonment, so maybe they didn't convert because of, they weren't sure about getting it on time or the quality, you can also use reviews talking specifically about that. So you can definitely, you don't need to use just the same review throughout all of your emails and throughout all of your marketing. Definitely mix it up and make sure it matches the messaging that you're trying to portray. And so last but not least, we'll kind of end by looking at some winning email and review examples to hopefully inspire some ways that you can use reviews in your behavioral emails. So the first is with LendingTree. They're a customer of ours, and they have a much longer, sales or purchase process. And this is an example here of where someone applied for a review and they were approved, but they didn't actually close their loan yet. So they send out this review or this email, and they use this nice review that talks about how their company is excellent, how the service is kind of top-notch to again, drive them to ultimately close their loan. And then this one on the right with rush ordered tees. So again, what they were noticing here was a lot of people were starting to create the t-shirt designs, but weren't ultimately converting and actually purchasing them, adding them to their cart. So this is an example of an email that they sent out. And again, they used reviews over here. And I think the interesting thing that worked really well was on the left side. You see the total number of reviews, which is over 2,000, and that just shows the quantity and the number of people that actually have had a good purchase experience from them to drive that final conversion and purchase. And we've got 2 more examples. The first is with Green Monster promos. So this is actually for trying to drive repeat purchases from current customers. So they offer this 50% off, which is great, and again, show this nice integration with showing Trustpilot reviews. And then last but not least here, so this one is more product specific, so like Daniel mentioned, going to a product page and maybe bouncing there. So they created this really nice, sleek-looking email and used this review specific to their product and talking about how, you know, they almost never liked these booties. They had some things they were unsure about them, but ultimately ended up loving them. So that one was really effective for them. And again, you don't always have to use like the Trustpilot branding. You can definitely customize it to look like how you want it to. So, yeah. Go ahead,
I was just going to say one more thing, just from those templates, it just occurred to me as well that, you know, when you use numbers like the example you said, like there's 2,000 people that, you know, reviewed and left positive messaging. I think like today with social media and, you know, having that as a metric for a person trying to judge your brand and trying to see, you know, can they trust you is such an important thing because, you know, when people are on YouTube, you know, one of the things people look for are how many video views were there, or when people are on Facebook, how many likes did this thing get? And these little numbers, they might seem like on some level kind of irrelevant, but when you see someone or a company has had over 2,000 reviews, it just creates a very strong impression that, okay, this is a serious company, like, because, you know, to generate 2,000 really good people having good experiences and then sharing it it just really reinforces your company as a solid kind of business that they could buy off, and having that messaging, like in those examples, is really, really powerful, especially today when looking at numbers like that in all these other areas of the online world are kind of play a role in affecting people's judgment on these types of things. So that's, you know, from what we've seen, that's also like a really strong thing to be able to include in these types of messages as well. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's great to hear it from you too, Daniel, because you guys have worked with a lot of clients on their emails as well, and we've seen it on our side with our clients as well. So it definitely works. Yeah, I think now we'll because I know we've gone a little bit over time, we'll throw it to some questions, and Jen's going to moderate. Maybe just take 1 or 2 before we end, and like she said, we'll follow up with you individually afterwards if we don't get to it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Daniel and Lauren. That was super informative, and thanks to everyone who joined us. First question here is, how can I collect more email addresses in order to send the campaigns shown by you, Daniel, and wouldn't those emails get kind of annoying for shoppers? Right.
Okay, good. Yeah, they're 2 very good questions. So I guess to sort of answer the second one first, the annoying shoppers part, because it could possibly seem like, oh my gosh, I don't want to send all these extra emails, and I'm already sending newsletters, and like it could be overkill, because the last thing you want to do is sort of annoy customers. So like one of the things that we do with the automations is, because it is quite likely in many cases that someone could be eligible to get a category campaign and then a product campaign and maybe even a cart abandonment campaign. Obviously, you don't want to send all of them. So in the automations, like we create rules and logic to say only send 1 email in a given date range. So maybe it could be 7 days, maybe it could be 14 days. So they don't actually get bombarded. They can only get 1. And the 1 email that we set, we say, hey, let's try and send them the one that represents where the furthest they got to in their journey. So if they are eligible for 3, but they abandon their cart, let's send them the cart abandonment one. Or they are eligible for some of the other ones, but the furthest they got to was the product page, so we would send them the product page one. So we can minimize the amount that they get by through different filters and being able to like create filters like that. And usually when people are sending, like we work with companies that mail their list, like daily, sometimes maybe even twice a day, and because these emails are behaviorally based, there's never really been crossover or issues with bombarding customers, even if they're sending a regular email every day, because of the contextual relevance. And from those open rates and engagement rates that we saw earlier, we've never really seen any problem with on that side of things. So hopefully that kind of addresses that side of the question. And then in terms of like capturing more emails, there's definitely a whole bunch of strategies. It's probably another whole webinar on that for another time. But a couple of ways. The most effective way we look at is using overlays, and I guess some people call them pop-ups, but we call them behavioral overlays. And I guess we call them behavioral overlays because, pop-ups have like a really nasty kind of connotation. They sound a bit spammy, and you don't want to annoy your customers again, and you don't want to increase the bounce rate. But when we target people with overlays in a behavioral context, like we were doing the same with the actual emails, so we might only want to target new visitors, and we might want to exclude people who are already on the email list. And we might only want to display it 2 times ever. So if they, come back to the site a 3rd time and they still haven't put their email in the overlay, you don't want to show it to them again, because you obviously don't want to create that friction and bad user experience. Like what we found is the most effective way, really, to generate more emails without annoying people is through behavioral overlays. And then those emails then fed into a system like ours, and you can also pass those emails into your own newsletter list, so you can actually email more people when you send out regular emails. And then, going deeper into the whole overlay world is, you can target certain pages, and you have different type of overlays for different product categories, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole other slew of strategies that can go into behaviorally targeting those overlays to A, get really good high opt-in rates, and B, enhance the user experience as well. So all these elements become a lot more personalized for every individual person in relation to where they enter on the website or exit on the website. And so that's the main. There's a bunch of other ways that we capture emails, but to help answer the question for now, that's really the most effective way that we've seen. And we usually see on a standard overlay that we target, we usually see anywhere from 6 to 9% opt-in rate of the people we're actually targeting. So we're not necessarily targeting the entire website of people because it's behavioral. So we usually see a 6 to 9% opt-in rate, which is pretty good. And I think it's a pretty high metric for something that people traditionally consider a bit spammy. Yeah. Did that help? Did that help answer the question?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. So
Cool.
Our next question is for Lauren. Where are the reviews pulled from? The website offering the product or an outside source?
Okay, great. So that's a great question, and I don't want to say it depends necessarily. It definitely comes from the website offering the product. But I do want to clarify that there's 2 types of reviews that you can collect and leverage in your marketing. So the first is we call it kind of like a service review, or it's a review about the actual business website, and that's just asking about your experience purchasing from them. And so those are really great, again, for talking about how your business is different, differentiating your business from other businesses that might be offering a similar product. And those are probably some of the most common ones that we see. But of course, there's product reviews as well, which we can help you collect those also. And when we collect them, they are, again, from that website, so we can validate that there is proof of purchase and it's a legitimate review and there's no question of if it was fake. But you can also use those product reviews, again, when you're talking more about specific products, on your website about specific products as well, category pages, things like that. So yes, they are about the website actually offering the products, and there's those 2 types of reviews that you can collect and leverage.
Cool, great. Okay, so that's about all the time we have for today. We're going to go ahead and shut things down. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to be sure to send you out that thank you note with a recording and a slide share in case you want to review it or share it with any of your friends. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Hello?